assured Truman that the Chinese would not come in. If they did, he told the president, there would be the greatest slaughter. With midterm elections coming up, Truman was content to bask in the general's glory.
250,000 Americans are now committed to the Korean struggle under the United Nations banner. Terrain, weather, and a ruthless foe continue to test men and equipment in a conflict that must go far to determine whether freedom will triumph over slavery.
MacArthur ordered his forces to press on toward the Yalu River, China's border with North Korea. Ignoring intelligence reports that China was poised to strike, the general boasted that his troops would eat Christmas dinner at home. On November 25, 1950, Truman's worst fears were realized. 300,000 Chinese regulars swarmed south across the Yalu River. The United States was now at war with the most populous nation on earth.
It is the worst American military defeat, I believe, since the Little Bighorn. It's a terrible, terrible, tragic moment in American military history. And all for no purpose, for no reason, for no gain. I mean, who needed to be at the Yalu? It's really out of his grandiosity and vainglory.
The Chinese quickly bottled up UN forces, trapping the U.S. Marines at the remote Chosin Reservoir.
Within days, they had us all surrounded, and our furthest unit was the 7th Marines, and then it was the 5th, and I was in the 1st Marines. And we were told, orders by General MacArthur, basically, is almost every man for himself to get out. And the Marine Corps upper staff said, no way. We're bringing all our dead, our wounded, our equipment out, which we did.
I was dancing with my darling to the Tennessee Waltz.
As the Tennessee Waltz topped the music charts back home, the Marines began their long retreat. For 14 days, they fought their way through the Chinese army in the brutal Korean winter. Letters from the conflict found their way back home.
Dear Mom, I'm writing this with my gloves on. It's too cold to take them off. This is to be my farewell letter if we don't make it today. They have us surrounded and we're going to fight our way out. It's been rough for 3 days now. I know I'll make it out okay. But if this is my last letter, you can rejoice in knowing that I am with my Savior and I have no fear and will do my job well. God be with you as he is with me. I love you all and we shall meet again. PFC Clarence Friesen.
The beautiful Tennessee Waltz.
The success of the retreat was a brief moment of glory in a grim time. But at home, popular culture focused on the cruelty of the enemy. Lurid comic book adventures played on racial and ideological fears that the communist enemy was at once subhuman and superhuman.
Yankee, you die! Yankee, we come! We come get you now! Oh, Yankee, you die now!
As United Nations forces dig in for a winter stand against overwhelming Chinese Red Hordes, General MacArthur, Commander-in-Chief in the Far East, visits the fighting front in Korea. Accompanied by...
Stung by his defeat, MacArthur prepared to escalate the war. He proposed laying a strip of radioactive waste along the Yalu River and talked openly of dropping the atomic bomb on China.
His forces would be able to hold their own.
I believe that we must try to limit the war to Korea for these vital reasons: to make sure that the precious lives of our fighting men are not wasted, and to prevent a third world war. A number of events have made it evident that General MacArthur did not agree with that policy. I have therefore considered it essential to relieve General MacArthur so that there would be no doubt or confusion as to the real purpose and aim of our policy. It was with the deepest personal regret that I found myself compelled to take this action.
The storm which has been brewing between Washington and General MacArthur finally breaks with the news that the Supreme Commander has been dismissed by President Truman. members of the press leave the conference in Washington to release the world-shaking story which will affect international policy in every capital.
That there had been fistfights on the commuter train from New York City to Westchester County that night between some people who were pro-MacArthur and some people who were pro-Truman. It just tore at the very fabric. It divided families, it divided friends, it divided people by ethnic groupings, all kinds of things. It was a devastating moment.
Oh, my darling, you made that promise when we wed.
Like the sheriff in High Noon, MacArthur had fought his last battle. Defiant to the end, he had lost the political duel with his president, but his flair for high drama captured the hearts of the American people.
MacArthur was a symbol, a wonderful symbol, of what was tearing America apart, the gung-ho aspect. One American is worth 10, you name it, certainly 10 Koreans, later 10 Vietnamese, 10, we can win. We are winners. We're number one. And the reality, which was a post-Cold War reality, which is maybe we aren't as big as we think we are, maybe we aren't as powerful, although we are the most powerful, maybe that's not enough to win all our wars.
After 14 long years, General MacArthur comes home, preceded by Mrs. MacArthur and followed by 13-year-old son Arthur. The hero of the Pacific debarks at San Francisco to deafening cheers.
I remember that I was in the Chicago Bureau of NBC News when the general stopped in the Middle West, and I remember riding from Chicago to Milwaukee on the top of a car, of a Chevrolet camera car, and seeing the motorcade with miles and miles of motorcycle outriders preceding the general's open car as he waved majestically to the peasants on both sides of the road. And I thought we were in fascist Italy. It was just scary, the idolatry of the crowds who thought that this was some great uniformed hero who had come to save us from the dreaded Truman.
Once there was a mighty man sent to faraway Japan to defend the liberty of peaceful nations. While he did the best he could, there was some who thought he should let the communists take over all creation. Doug MacArthur is a name that will light the halls of fame.
He was a 19th century man who spoke in florid terms. It was almost like an overripe Victorian actor coming home, in an age which, because of television, was going to be increasingly cool.
And like the old soldier of that ballad, I now close my military career and just fade away. An old soldier who tried to do his duty as God gave him the light to see that duty. Goodbye.
By firing MacArthur, Truman may have prevented World War III, but it was not a popular move. His enemies labeled him a red herring. Calls went up to impeach the imbecile. Charges that Truman's Democratic Party was soft on communism would taint American politics for years to come. Discredited in the eyes of the people, Truman announced in March of 1952 that he would not seek another term in office. The war in Korea would drag on, eventually ending where it had begun, at the 38th parallel. Korea was divided into communist North and capitalist South, exactly as it had been before any shots were fired or lives lost.
80,000 of them meet a blazing barrage.
The war was over there. It had nothing to do with the people back in the States. There was very little on the papers and the newspapers. Baseball was going on like usual. everything was normal.